It's 4:47 a.m., before the alarm, before the coffee maker clicks on. His eyes are already open, staring at a ceiling he's memorized. He doesn't need the alarm, hasn't for years. His body just knows. Downstairs, the same mug, the same 2 eggs, the same 15 minutes of silence before anyone else in the world is awake. He doesn't check his phone first. He checks the weather with his own 2 eyes, through the kitchen window, the way his father did. Maybe that's you. Not because you're rigid, not because you're stuck in the past, but because somewhere along the way, you built a rhythm that works, and you never felt the need to explain it to anyone. You've probably noticed something else, too. A kind of clarity you didn't have at 25. Not louder confidence, quieter. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything in a room full of people. You know which arguments are worth having and which ones evaporate by Thursday. You know which people are trustworthy within about 4 minutes of meeting them. You know your own limits, and more importantly, you've stopped apologizing for them. There's a name for what's happening to you, though almost nobody talks about it in these terms. Researchers call it crystallized intelligence, the accumulated library of pattern recognition, judgment, and hard-won knowledge that peaks not in your 20s, but decades later, often somewhere in your 50s or 60s. While raw processing speed, the kind useful for video games and cramming for exams, quietly declines after your 20s, this other kind of intelligence, the kind that actually runs a life, a business, a family, keeps climbing. You are, right now, statistically closer to your cognitive peak than you have ever been. Nobody throws a parade for that. There's no ceremony for the moment a man becomes the person other people call when something breaks. A marriage, a car, a decision, a piece of bad news. No award for being the one who doesn't panic. No headline for the fact that your gut instinct, the one you've stopped questioning, is actually built from thousands of data points most 25-year-olds haven't lived long enough to collect yet. Culture has a story about aging men, and it isn't this one. The story is decline, slowing down, fading relevance, being replaced. But here's where it gets complicated.
Because if you felt this shift, this strange, quiet arrival at competence, you've probably also felt something else alongside it. A kind of invisibility. Like the exact moment you became genuinely good at life is the same moment the world stopped looking at you.
It's the central paradox of what we're going to call the peak man. The archetype of the man who has finally arrived at his sharpest thinking, his steadiest judgment, his most reliable self. Right as the culture around him decides he's the least interesting person in the room. This is his story. It might be yours. And if it is, you've probably already sensed the second half of it, the part that doesn't get talked about at dinner parties or printed on inspirational posters. Here's where it gets complicated. Because competence, real competence, the kind built over decades, doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with a title change or a raise. Often, it comes with the opposite. The quieter you get, the more capable you become. The more the world starts to read your calm as absence, your steadiness as disengagement, your self-sufficiency as coldness. Men like this often go years, sometimes decades, without anyone actually naming what they're looking at. Nobody sits a 55-year-old man down and says, "You've become one of the most psychologically stable people in this building." Instead, he just notices the meetings get shorter, the eye contact gets briefer, the culture starts talking about fresh energy and new perspectives, and somewhere underneath all of it is an unspoken message. We've stopped being curious about you. Sociologists studying workplace perception have found that as men age past their late 40s, they're increasingly seen through a narrower lens. Reliable, sure, but rarely described as innovative, dynamic, or exciting. Regardless of what they're actually producing, the data itself doesn't change. The story wrapped around the data does. So he adapts the only way a man like this knows how. He stops looking for recognition and starts trusting the internal signal instead. And this is where the archetype reveals its first real strength, the one hiding in plain sight the entire time. Hidden strength number 1. He has stopped needing an audience.
Most people, if they're honest, perform competence. They want the visible win, the applause, the credit line. The peak man has quietly exited that game altogether. He fixes the leak at 11 p.m. not because someone's watching, but because leaving it broken would bother him more than the compliment would satisfy him. His standard now lives inside him, not outside him.
Psychologists sometimes call this an internal locus of evaluation, and it's rare. It's also, not coincidentally, one of the strongest predictors of long-term life satisfaction in aging populations. But here's where it gets complicated again. If this described you, even a little, you're not imagining it, and you're not alone in it. If this hit home, hit subscribe. This channel exists for men exactly like you. Drop a like if you felt seen watching this, and tell me in the comments, what's the moment you realized you'd quietly become the most capable person in the room, even if nobody said it out loud?